May I say this book is about the big picture that is sketched with bold strokes on a white canvas, and it is not about joining the little dots. It is accessible, I hope and believe, to a much wider readership, for I am convinced that economics is and should be comprehensible to concerned readers who have an interest. In writing this book, I have attempted to simplify, to explain, to reach out to the reader. I sincerely hope that it would interest scholars across disciplines in the social sciences.
The opening question of the book is precisely what the inquisitive historian should ask. Until the 18th century, what we today call the developing world, that is Asia, Africa, and Latin America, had economies much in advance of Europe. But by the 20th century, this was reversed. So the question is, why did this happen? How then will the developing world of today catch up with the developed world and its economic advance? The book struck me as being a bold sweep, cutting large swathes of time and space. It is indeed truly universal in its concept. It's lucid, it's lively, it's insightful, and it discusses this question with an immense understanding of the global perspective of the question. In assessing the reasons for the falling back of Asia, Deepak's book refers to the older debates, of which there were many from the 19th century, on why capitalism and industrialization did not develop in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. What is commonly and popularly known in university circles as the transition debate. Very much something that is still being commented on. And mention is made in the book of the Eurocentric approach of people like Marx and Weber, who treated the non-European world as the other, and ipso facto assumed that whatever Europe had, the other did not have. There was a kind of positive-negative relationship, which is quite simplistic. The perspective that the book provides is logical, historically reliable, and basically hopeful. It explains the challenge to those struggling, like we are doing, in trying to make it go, to make something of it. The great merit of this book, and it has an enormous amount of merit, but the great merit of the book is that it makes us understand that process of what we are experiencing and how to comprehend it.
I think what you get out of this book is certainly a kind of periodization which is very different from the conventional one. It uses data, largely put together by Deepak, also Madison and others, Bedrock and so on. But basically what it does is to say that from about 1000 to 1500 AD, there was actually, as far as you can roughly see, the developing countries were, as a whole, had an important position in the world, much more important than what is today's called the developed world. So inequality is very much a part, and there is a very good chapter in the book where it talks about population-weighted inequality, population-unweighted inequality, inequality among the people, whatever data we have and so on, to say. Now, well, this is what you can count, and growth matters in terms of inclusiveness and so on, to what extent it deals with also distribution of income. Distribution co-evolves with output, which is obvious. Now there is one part, I think I'm speaking from memory, but somewhere on page 44, 45 and so on. There is one part which I found extremely interesting, where he actually takes a plunge which I would have liked him to take a little bit more, to explain these long movements of history, that why developing countries did not were at a paramount better position till the 1500 or so, then went down, started going down, and then from 1962 at least some of them came up.
But what he was drawing attention to was the fact that there's a great difference, as Professor Bhaduri also mentioned, between growth and development. In fact, there's a big difference between growth as such, GDP and GDP per capita. And this is something that we all know about, and we argue about these things in our little workshops. But the way Deepak puts it across, in broad canvas, as he said himself, is looking at the big picture, a really big picture. I think that that job is so well done that it really is difficult for me to misinterpret him as much as I would like to. The best part about Deepak's book is that he says there is nothing automatic about growth, right, Deepak? There's nothing automatic about growth and nothing automatic about convergence. I think that is the most important thing. And he doesn't state this often enough. What Deepak states is wonderful, and what he understates is even better. You have something called the invisible hand of the market. We heard it so often, though I'm told Adam Smith only used it once. But we all use it, and it's become a kind of a metaphor. But Deepak has a better metaphor. The invisible hand of the state, Deepak's metaphor is a visible hand, invisible hand of the market, and his is the visible hand of the state. And he uses that in his book. And people can't remember it right now. But one thing is, the hand of the state is very important, as opposed to hands-off state.